Okay, so it's been just over a week since I got my GPD Win Max, and I was just gonna do a first impression video alongside my unboxing, but yeah, that didn't really pan out. Then I was like, ooh, let's do a top 10 things I like and dislike about the Win Max. Doing a list would be easier, right? Then I started writing my bullet points, and now it turned into a 5-page script. So screw it, this is now a review of the Win Max. But I'm still gonna be doing a proper in-depth review later down the line, like I did with the Win 2, but not now. I'll make one once I get to know more about the Win Max, you know, buy her a drink and take her out for dinner and stuff. So I'm sure all of you watching already knows the specs of the Win Max. But if you don't, it doesn't really matter, cause this isn't why I'm here. I'm here to tell you about things that you can't see, things I felt after using the Win Max for a week. So, no specs, no benchmarks. Before we start, I just want to let you all know I'm on Twitter, so feel free to drop by and say hi, talk about games and stuff. Yep, that's all. I guess I'll have to start somewhere, so let's go with the build of the Win Max. First of all, the Win Max looks heavy, and that's because it is heavy. In fact, this is the heaviest handheld I've ever held. I used to think the Win 2 was heavy, and now it feels super weird going back from a Win Max to the Win 2. One thing I think a lot of you might want to do when you got your Win Max might be to upgrade the SSD. But the screws are on really tight and the quality aren't the best, and I've heard quite a few strip their screws, which I almost did a lot of times when unscrewing my Win Max. Luckily I made it through okay, or else I'll have a useless SSD laying around. After getting all the screws out, the backplate was incredibly difficult to remove as well. I felt if I was applying any more pressures on it, I was gonna snap that thing in half. I felt if there were already so many screws on the device, there aren't really any point of having a snap-on backplate. In fact, I chipped my case trying to remove it, and that really sucks. I remember watching Fox's video saying the retail unit would not have anything connected to the backplate, and removing the SSD wouldn't require unscrewing the fan. Not that it is impossible to do, since I've already done it, but GPD clearly was trying to make the process slightly easier, but ended up just keeping the design to speed up production. Anyways, if you're planning to upgrade your SSD, be super careful. So moving on to the design, other than the chunky bezels, I'm really liking the design on the Win Max. GPD has definitely taken a few design cues from the GPD Micro PC, so hopefully the hinge is just as good as that. Oh, and I remember back when the Win 2 was announced, everyone was hoping the silver bits on the front would be gone for the retail unit. And GPD was doing the whole Nvidia Shield thing with that swappable backplate, and seems like that never got anywhere. And the Win Max looks super stealthy compared to the Win 2, and this is everything I could have hoped for. No weird color accent other than a few subtle touch of the face buttons. Good stuff. And not enough people are bringing this up, but this is super important to me, and that is the headphone jack is in the front of the device. That alone makes the Win Max feels like it has more thoughts put into it compared to their previous works. The Win Max also has one of the best cooling systems on a handheld I've ever seen. You know, even right now, I still feel like the Win 2 isn't really that weak, but one of the things that's holding it back is the thermal, and I feel like power is useless without good efficiencies, and the Win Max has finally done that. Not that it never gets hot, it definitely does, at around the left analog sticks to be precise, especially when doing lots of transferring or playing and charging at the same time, and that's why this thing gets pretty loud under load, and yes, that means even louder than the Win 2. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this thing has like the beefiest cooling system on any handheld device right now. This is like gaming laptop level of cooling. Oh, and are you seeing this? Look at this. This is something you can't do on the Win 2. No, not the game. Look, it's on the table, flat. Try to do that on the Win 2. That shit turns itself off within a minute. And with the keyboard being a lot more usable and also having a trackpad, I ended up using the Win Max as a laptop a lot more than I thought I would. And about the charger, I've been using my Razer Stealth laptop charger as a substitute, as I'm using a UK plug and I don't want to do the whole converter thing, and it was lucky that this works, since like the Win 2, the Win Max is really picky on what charger it accepts. One thing I'm sure it would be pretty helpful to a lot of you is the Nintendo Switch's AC adapter also works perfectly on the Win Max. So I think it's pretty obvious the Win Max has like the chunkiest bezels we've seen in a handheld in a long time, but since the screen is pretty big, I'm already kinda used to it. Well, not that I don't want a smaller bezel screen, but I'm okay with what I got on the Win Max. Also about the screen, I'm sure lots of you have the same problem since I saw it on Reddit too, so I know I'm not the only one. But that bleeding is really bad. I saw some fixes in the comment section of that post, but that didn't do anything, and since I got a grey background, it really stands out for me. But anyways, it goes away after a while. But come on, GPD, get your shit together. This is like what, your 7th attempt on the PC, and God knows how many Android devices you've done before that. Last thing on the screen, this time is the software side of things. I know some of you prefer this 16:10 aspect ratio, but I really do miss that 16:9 on the Win 2, since I got used to playing in that. And I'll always go with that on my Win Max as well, even now. But Windows scaling is not really the best, and I feel like even in a week I have to deal with more scaling problem than I ever had to on my Win 2. But hey, personal preferences, just thought I'd mention it anyway. Alright, the gamepad. Whenever GPD releases a GPD Win series device, this is one of my biggest fear. And after getting it and using it for a week, I'm gonna say, god damn it, they were so close, but just not quite. Alright, the face buttons, ABXY. It's definitely a huge improvement over the Win 2. That's for sure. Gone are the traditional buttons that uses a membrane, so like the DualShock 4 and the Switch Pro controller. Except far worse, obviously. And those crappy membranes breaks and the buttons get stuck. God, horrible. And for the Win Max, GPD went with micro switches, so it's like the PS Vita or the Switch's Joy-Con. Except again, not as nice. I purposefully used the face buttons on my Win Max very carefully, since I still haven't recovered from my depression for killing my Win 1 and Win 2's face buttons. And now my Win Max's buttons are already starting to creak. And is it going to break, or is it going to get stuck? I have no idea, only time will tell, but this is definitely not a good sign. Moving on to the D-pad, it's pretty much identical to PS Vitas. So if you've used a Vita, you've used the D-pad on the Win Max. So if you like it there, you're gonna like it here, and if you don't, same applies. And as for me, I think they're far better than the one on the Win 2, but in long term, I can't form an opinion right now, so I have to leave that for my final review. The range of movements on the analog sticks are way better on the Win Max, though I do miss the rubber cap on the Win 2. The mouse mode on the Win Max also locks in 90-degree axis far less now, so you get far more natural mouse control over the Win 2. But I do worry, as I feel like the space beneath the analog sticks could trap dust really easily. So hopefully there won't be any drifting on this, cause it'll be far more difficult to repair a Win Max than a drifting Joy-Con. The shoulder keys could have been better as well. It seems like they've taken some design cues from the Switch, except with one big caveat. So, on the Switch there's this dome-shaped thing surrounding the shoulder buttons, but on the Win Max there aren't anything there. And that dome-shaped thing is really important for keeping your shoulder buttons safe. Without it, it's really easy for them to get caught on your finger, or putting weight onto it when placed on a table. The Win Max, for being so heavy, doesn't help especially, so please keep that in mind, as I feel like this is going to be a common problem moving forward. Let's hope I'm wrong. The Win Max now uses a traditional switch for keyboard keys, so just like any other conventional laptops. I still don't know what I prefer, the Win 2's keyboard or this. As a laptop doing lots of typing and playing MMO and Dota and stuff like that, Win Max's keyboard would be nice for these kind of stuff, but since the Win Max is also pretty big, I feel like there aren't much space to hold without doing some accidental presses on the keyboard, especially when doing some handheld gaming, which wasn't a problem on the Win 2 since other than it being smaller, you actually have to push harder for the key to register, but that also makes it difficult for doing lots of typing. So yeah, I guess this is based on preferences, and I still don't know what I prefer just yet. And speaking of preferences, anyone miss the dedicated volume keys on the Win 2? I think there are no other keys I use more on the Win 2 than those keys. It kinda sucks that they've now prioritized the FN keys over the function keys. First thing I did when I got my Win Max was trying to swap them out one by one with sharp keys, so now I got working volume keys with just one click. But that doesn't work in certain games for whatever reasons, or sometimes both FN and function keys are both registered, or I can only remap volume keys but not brightness keys. God damn it, this is a mess. This is why I've spoken to GPD way before production, and I suggested adding an option in the BIOS to swap FN and function keys. They said they would consider it, but obviously they didn't. GPD, if you're watching this, please patch an optional BIOS update. It wouldn't be too difficult, right? See, I used to do UX design in uni, so these kind of stuff might not bother anyone else, but it really bugs the shit out of me, so... anyway, moving on. Okay, so about the keyboard backlight, I remember seeing it somewhere where someone was saying the lights were leaking from the sides, and it wasn't bright enough, and to be honest, I think it's actually pretty good. It's functional, it's either on or off, but that's really all I need, to be honest. And the leaking is nowhere as bad as I thought. I've seen worse on other laptops. And I thought the backlight is something I wouldn't use, but actually I found it quite helpful during some late night gaming sessions. The button placements along the top of the Win Max is functional, but I feel like since the device is quite big, I always ended up holding the device in a certain way that presses on the power button by accident. This might be a bit nitpicky, but this is definitely something I picked up on while using the WinMax, so I thought I'd mention it. The trackpad on the WinMax works, and that's pretty much all there is to it. It doesn't really register it correctly sometimes, it feels rather cheap, and I'm not sure, but I think every Windows laptop by now should have the precision tracking driver support by default, right? And I'm sure going with a glass trackpad wouldn't cost that much more in production. But either way, it's nice that they're using that space for something useful, since some games, even with gamepad support, don't support the gamepad within menus. So I like this addition. Good job, GPD. So the gaming side of things. I'm not going over this part in details since I haven't been playing much outside of testing and benchmarking purposes. But okay, in all honesty, the WinMax isn't the most powerful laptop out there. I think we all know that. But it is amazing seeing some games that people are playing on their PS4 and we have them in our hands. Games I can play on my Win 2, I can play better here. In games I can't play on the Win 2 probably will run pretty bad here, though there are some surprises here and there. And the dream of having GTA 5 on the go is finally happening. No performance mod and anything, of course. And I was just giggling like an idiot when I first opened the game. And the last time I had that feeling was when I got my first GPD win and got Mario Sunshine running on it. Like I've mentioned in my Win 2 review, I've always wanted a portable Wii, and the Win 2 helped me realize that dream. I just didn't know I'd be pretty much playing a portable PS4 so soon. Well, I know this isn't really exactly a PS4 in terms of power, just a figure of speech. But not everything is perfect, of course. Games heavily depends on optimizations. So some games like Phantom Pain are PS4 games and they run perfectly on the WinMax, while stuff like Bayonetta 1 is PS3 game but it stutters like hell. But of course, with more power comes more response. With more power you're less restrained by what games you can't play on the WinMax compared to the Win 2. So this is a big one. This isn't really GPD's fault, more so Intel's side, but this is really important, so I thought I'd mention it. But if you're getting a WinMax right now, there are currently no drivers that fully supports all games as of now. Certain drivers are better at some games than others, and currently I'm having troubles running RE engine games like Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and Doom Eternal. This is something not even GPD can control, more so on Intel's side. But it sucks that all of us has to wait for Intel to do something, and that is if they decide to do something. And yeah, that wraps up my 1 week review for the GPD WinMax. By and large, I love it, but that's also because I know what kind of quality I was gonna get. And again, I'm not gonna tell anyone to rush out and buy one right now, but I hope there's something in here that gives you a better sense of what kind of product you're getting into. And of course, I have a lot more to talk about in my actual review. But much like my Win 2 review, I don't want to rush it, but I'll also try not to make one 2 years later. But also don't take my words for it, in case there aren't anything 2 years down the line. In my actual review, I'll go over things like battery usage and my gaming experience on it. I'll just have to experience it before I talk about it. But as of right now, I need to get my Dolphin optimization guide for WinMax done. If there's anything you'd like me to cover in that video, please let me know on Twitter, or message me on Discord, or just drop a comment below. But again, if my video is any help to you, it'd be amazing if you could share it around, or maybe even consider subscribing. But anyways, thanks for watching.